Hello all and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I'm Jim. I'm your temporary host while John is indisposed. Hey, it is still the Prepared Mind show though, and while older brother is busy, I can definitely take care of the business at hand. And folks, we have got some big business at hand. I keep getting asked day after day, week after week, month after month, when's it coming, John? When's it coming, Jim? I hear John and I just respond to it now these days because when you see me, that's who I have to be. Anyways, we've got some big developments with regard to how the people function, right? Are we getting further from 1776? Well, you know, as the calendar ticks away a day at a time, it would seem so. But current events speak to me a little differently. They actually seem to be pulling us closer to this 1776. Certainly the tyranny that's going on is becoming, I would say, very difficult to choke down. It's not getting easier to deal with this crap. It's getting harder. Not for me, folks. You know, I got it pretty good. You know, I've got all the spam I can handle. Anyways, you know, apart from spam, what's going on? People are starting to really reject what is happening. And I want to bring to your attention the state of Washington, where Governor Inslee, who has been called an ass. No, I take that back. The former state trooper said he can kiss his ass. I want to make sure I get that right. I don't want to misquote anybody, but you know, many people might say that Inslee is an ass or worse. So the governor up there has really been pushing a lot of California-style mandates, and the people are responding in a way that I think a lot of us would hope that they do. So what has happened? Nearly 2,000 folks, nearly 2,000 state employees have now quit, or they got fired over the cerveza bug mandate, the mandate to get the tequila shot. Not everyone likes tequila, folks. You know, mostly that's for Democrats to slurp down with their Kool-Aid. But yeah, nearly 1,900 were fired or quit. Said state officials. This is not a news agency or anything else. This is a state official. So basically 3% of the state employees quit. That is a huge number because Washington, while it's a large state geographically, only has 63,000 government employees. To me, that's I mean, it's still a huge freaking number, 63,000. And do we need that much government? Well, that's what they have, and they've had close to 2,000 quit, or nearly 3% of their population. I'm sorry, their government worker population. So what is going on is people are rejecting on a greater and greater basis, to the point, folks, you know, where they're quitting their job. They're not just saying, I ain't going to do it. They've lost their jobs. So what does this mean for Washington? What does this mean for the United States? Number one, I'm sure government services are going to be even slower because they don't just, these aren't the, I'm guessing, the lowest of low employees. These are Republicans, these are conservatives, libertarians, and they tend, in my opinion, to work a good deal harder for their paycheck, whether they're government or not, which means that they're probably very productive. They're probably holding supervisor positions, if not upper supervisor positions. That is to say that they're people that get things done and they know what to do. And the government is losing 3%. I bet it's going to feel, folks, like 10%. You know, if I was a radical partisan, I might say 20%, but I'm just going to be conservative with my conservative estimate and say 10%. It's going to feel that way because these are people that get the job done. So the residents, those who are domiciled in Washington state, are going to start feeling it. You know, I'm sure, though, that the tax collectors are going to be just fine in the state of Washington. Now, they say or claim to say there's no problem here, right? This is what the government says. Washington state government is a great place to work, and these positions will be filled, said Mike Falk. Now, I don't know if he knows what the Falk he is talking about, because you can't just replace people who know what they're doing. There's a great deal of training. I guess you can replace them. You know, someone can sit in those desks or sit at those desks and shine those leather seats with their big fat asses. I'm sure the people that are going to replace them are going to likely be fully trained, registered Democrats with socialist mentality who are going to sit in those chairs and become excellent bureaucrats who get absolutely nothing done. So good luck to the state of Washington. But I think, folks, I think this is indicative of what's happening around the country. It's just we're getting the numbers. Now, I have a quote here. A quote, "We're in the middle of an explosive threat to our freedoms because of this disease." We are in the middle of an explosive threat to freedom, in my opinion, not because of the disease, but because of rampant, tyrannical, bureaucratic, political agenda. Because the places I've been traveling, you know, John travels around a little bit. I travel around probably more, and we're not seeing it. We talk to each other quite frequently. We're not seeing it. I talk to other people. They're not seeing it. We're not seeing any rampant problem. The only thing that's under threat is freedom and liberty. Now, back in 2016, when Trump was running his campaign, I recall working on a lot of projects with John and saying, "Hey, look, we're not hearing the word freedom being used in this election." It was all about entitlements and bailouts and shit like that back in the 2016 election, where Trump was battling the queen bitch, Hillary. It was pretty rough, right? And I was pissed off about it also. But by the time we got to the end of the Trump administration, he was talking about freedom and liberty, because that's really always what has been at stake. And government programs and tax cuts, bailouts, that's never what has made America great. He ran on the campaign, "Make America Great Again." And what makes America great is liberty, is freedom. And so here we are. We're hearing some of the same battle cries, some of the same things being talked about. Our freedom is not at stake because of a disease. Our freedom is at stake because of abusive, tyrannical government. That has always been what has threatened freedom. Isn't that incredible how they say freedom is threatened by a disease? So the answer is to take away your freedoms? Let me say that again. When I read that, I about shit my pants, which would have been a bad deal. Freedom is at stake because of a disease, says the government. So the government's response is to take your freedom. Doesn't that sound a lot like Hegelian dialect? Problem, reaction, solution. Once again, Hegelian dialect. Look it up on Wikipedia, Hegelian, Hegelian dialect. There's a problem that they created. The people clamor, scream, "Solve the problem, fix everything." So then the government answers by offering a solution that they have already created to put in its place. So, yeah, cerveza bug madness. "Government, do something, please," says the people. And the government says, "Great, we're going to take your freedoms as a solution." But they have the fucking temerity to step up and say that your freedom is at risk because of a disease. And then they say, "We're going to take your freedoms as a part of the solution." Unbelievable. Stunning. Stunning. Now, as we know, we're in trouble here in the United States of America. As we also know, over in Australia, they're quite a bit more in trouble than we are. That is, their government has really stepped up the despotism, the restructuring of their civil rights, their God-given rights, their constitutional rights over in the land down under, also referred to as Oz, which is kind of appropriate at this stage of the game, wouldn't you say? Let me tell you what's going on down under, folks, so you understand where we're at here up on top. The Northern Territory, which is kind of a funny name for a state. They've got what? They got Victoria. They've got weird names for their states. Anyways, Northern Territory Chief Minister Michael Gunner. Well, he seems to be fine, but guess what has happened to his family? Well, his family has now fled their home because of the anger over their mandates in Australia. That's right, folks. Political elected officials, their families aren't safe. Boo-hoo in my book. And I'm sorry to say that, folks. We can't go, well, you shouldn't be picking on the wives and husbands of political officials. You shouldn't be threatening their children. Hey, folks, what do you think those, well, for lack of a better word, cocksuckers are doing? They're ruining other people's families. They're threatening other people's spouses and children that they're going to lose their jobs and lose their homes and lose their lives. What the fuck do they expect? Oh, well, it's the government saying it. That's like coming from the lips of God himself. Look out, folks. They're fleeing their homes. That gives you an idea how much closer we are to there being, shall we say, violent problems here in the good old US of A. Yep. Chief Minister Michael Gunner says his wife and son had to flee their home over the weekend. His anger grew to a fever pitch in the top end. I guess the top end is another nickname for that Northern Territory. Anyways, demonstrators yelled out Mr. Gunner's home address and threatened to attack him at a rally in Darwin on Saturday. What an appropriately named town, Darwin Award. Let's see, if you steal people's rights, ruin their lives, expect to become a Darwin victim. Woo! Yep. This is interesting. Here's a quote, folks. I want to give you this before we wrap things up. Quote, the priority was obviously people knew where we lived. It was at a rally. It was on the internet. You had no idea who was watching, and my clear instinct was obviously don't be at the house. Well, isn't there a problem with lockdowns in Australia? You're supposed to be in your house. Aren't you supposed to text a picture of yourself at your house in order to not get in trouble for violating lockdown orders and other shit? Or is that another territory in Australia? Very interesting, huh? We don't want people knowing how we're making sure that myself and my family are safe, but obviously precautions have to be taken. You bet. Mandatory, 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 mandatory. Now, here is a mainstream media quote. The move has attracted negative attention from around the world. What move are we talking about? The move where the politician and his family, they fled their home. Is that the move that people are angry about? Or that they had to do that because others are, threatening them? Or are people really upset at all the tyranny that's going on? And this new move to force even tighter mandates and restrictions on the people, that's what's causing the anger. That's what's getting negative from around the world. And I have to tell you, I talk to people and they know here in the United States, Democrats and liberals and these fucking communist types, and they are very insistent that they know what's going on. When you ask them for statistics, when you ask them for supporting documentation information, they generally don't have it, and they just repeat what are known as talking points, buzzwords, and bullshit. But, I could direct anybody to The Prepared Mind on patreon.com, and you can pull up article after article, debate after debate, speech after speech by doctors, experts, medical professionals that will give you some real facts, some real statistics, as well as real treatments and real options. But that's not the world or the reality that's being presented by governments and the media. Folks, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. We're getting closer to 1776. So are you prepared? I hope you live in a comfortable area where the odds of you suffering the greatest consequences from negative stupidity, are minimized, right? That's the food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan to execute in the event SHTF Mad Max visits your area. And I still say it's entirely appropriate that in Australia, right, they're suffering the worst of this because it was from Australia that the movies about Mad Max were born. So I'm not wishing anything on our Australian brothers and sisters negative, but it just almost seems appropriate. because they're very much Australia, our kissing cousins to America here. Because America, folks, was founded not by criminals, but by people who were being called criminals by the government of England. Australia was seeded as a penal colony. That doesn't mean penis, it means punishment. That kind of penal colony. Just a funny little Jim joke there. All righty, anyways, yeah. So, yeah, they were considered criminals by the British, and many of the English, the British, thought that the American colonists were nothing but a bunch of criminals as well. Malcontents, if you will. And that malcontentedness in America spawned the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the attitude of don't trust government, don't trust authority, think for yourselves, use common sense, and is developed by German philosophers, critical thinking. That came in next, but it was already being used, critical thinking, by many. It just got a formal name later, but it was utilized during the creation of the United States of America. And the creation of the United States of America, folks, understand this. One last point, maybe even a salient point, is what was written down in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, what was recorded in the Federalist Papers, what was used by Thomas Jefferson. I want to say that name and piss off all the liberals I can. Thomas Jefferson, when he penned the Declaration of Independence, those ideas, those thoughts were not new. They were not revolutionary in and of themselves. Those thoughts were universal in the hearts, minds, and souls of people in America and around the world. It's just that those thoughts, those words, those concepts were written down for all to see, read, think about, accept, and then give to posterity. And that is an incredible thing, folks. You see, that is where education has failed tyranny. When people are allowed to think for themselves and share ideas, free speech, hello, the human mind can become an incredible tool for liberty and freedom. So why do you think they're taking over the education system, dumbing down our children, our grandchildren? Even our parents are pretty dumbed down in some cases, because they know, right, that an intelligent mind is capable of so much more than the government wants it to be. So educate yourselves, folks. Understand what's happening. Shit has hit the fan. We've got a long way to go to get through this. And chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi. Godspeed. And I'll be back. And I'll tell John you guys say hi. Until then, this is Jim out.